Hello, everyone. I hope you had a good Christmas and you're nice and full. Griff and I were discussing what Boxing Day is in the United Kingdom. Please let me know if my volume is okay. That's something I should have checked. Perhaps I could raise it slightly, but I don't want it to be absolutely burning your ears out. But I know that Griff tends to be on a different volume. But yeah, Seahawks podcast today, as ever. We're going to look at the Seahawks defensive film review. I don't actually know. Well, there's a comment Pete Carroll made about rope-a-doping the run game, but some adjustments in the pass coverage to minimize explosive versus DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Brown. That is certainly something we can look at. We've got the Seahawks injury report to look at, and we also have the Russell Wilson news to talk about. But before that, Griff, Merry Christmas, even though we said that last time. Happy New Year.
We've only budgeted so many Merry Christmases, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays. We don't want to overdo it. Diminishing returns on the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Where we do it. So not to be all Scrooge-like, but
no. You know. I mean, I was quite Scrooge-like, to be fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, good to see you. Okay, so Monjombo, what extreme height? Okay, Monjombo, like relax now.
Straight on camera,
just
low angle. Yeah, wait. So are you saying that Maddie's the taller one and I'm the shorter one?
No, I don't think so. As I feel very insecure here.
Don't be insecure. You're a solid 5'11" and a half. Right?
Yeah, which is way above average height. Amy,
yeah, especially for the time period.
Amy said finally here on time for once, Griff, at 6 p.m. Feel quite bad for that.
Hour off.
Like, yeah, but thanks, Amy, if you're still here. Sorry. Vince, good to see you. That's not how Hit It works, Vince. Like, I appreciate you're trying to preempt the Hit It, but we have that's implying you don't want to preamble, Vince. So if you don't, then that's, fine. Reyes Gaming TV. Oh.
Really quick, Brandon, love yourself. 5'9" is a perfectly fine height.
Yeah. I mean, he's no 5'10", but.
Or even 5'11" and a half, which is definitely Maddie's height.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we should overdo this because.
Guess our heights.
We've already done this segment.
Hey, let's do it again.
And Mark Schofield, remember, we had him on as a guest and he corroborated my true height again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Exactly, Brandon. There you go. Silver linings.
Wow. That is... People are just trying to get banned out here.
On Boxing Day? Or that was yesterday?
No, yeah, Boxing Day was the 26th, yeah.
It's the 28th there, so on Maddie's time, it's 2 days ago.
Yeah, it just feels like another year. Ham, turkey, or rib roast for Christmas Day? Asked Tyler. I had a sirloin, which me and my brother cooked.
Nice.
Yeah.
I had a lamb shank.
Nice.
It was actually really good.
That sounds well good.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a good old time eating my lamb shank.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know what, are you familiar with the term shank?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm familiar with the term shank. What about it?
Well, what do you think of it?
The term shank, I mean, it's got its, it has its literal terms, then it's, more, what do you say? Slang terms, applications.
Colloquial, yeah.
Hey, so I get a lot of mixed feedback on my eyebrows.
Yeah. And it's, and granddaughter, maybe she, just isn't old enough to yet appreciate.
I was getting them waxed before the pandemic. I wasn't shaping them. I wasn't going overboard. I was just shrinking them down to size a little bit, like putting their egos in check. Because as you can tell, they fight for real estate up there with one another. And since COVID has ended, I just haven't gotten back in the habit. Also at Hoyt's, getting waxed up there hurts.
Oh, I bet.
Although it's probably one of the easier spots to get waxed. I'm not that brave.
Truly, that's part of why I enjoy doing this podcast with you, because generally my eyebrows get attention, but
you have good brows.
Yeah, I mean they're okay. I mean they're not yours, but yeah.
I used to get bullied in high school for that. I'm not really.
No,
I'd give it back. I'd throw it back. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I can hold.
That's right. You tell them.
It was more so my friends, just being what teenagers are.
Friendly banter.
Yeah. But so that was why I started getting them waxed. So and then I stopped getting. Well, then I would get comments about how I was overdoing it, and and everything.
I need accessories, like Jack, like an earring.
An earring? What kind of accessories?
Yeah, what type of accessories? Like I could wear like a chain. Chain. That'd be fun.
That'd be good. I think part of our charm is that we're very low production, though.
Yeah, I mean this whiteboard is excellent, isn't it?
Yeah, like I'm not even using my headset anymore because it hurts my ears.
Right.
So the quality's dipping.
Yeah, it's just a shambles.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Should we start the show?
Hit it, Matty.
Oh yeah, chat. You don't even need Vince. My apologies. Griff can just tell me that, so you don't even need it, chat. Please do like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel.
Hit it.
5-star review. No. Duh. Yeah. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where it's time for Griff and I to review the defensive tape from the Seahawks victory in Week 16 at the Tennessee Titans. A very impressive victory, and the defense managed to keep the explosives down, managed to keep DeAndre Hopkins out of the game, basically managed to completely shut down the Titans' passing attack, albeit for a Derick passing touchdown. So there's some really good things to look at there. Before that, though, we have the Seahawks injury report to look at and the news that Russell Wilson is essentially going to be cut in the offseason. And we're not being bitter ex-spouses of Russell Wilson by talking about this topic, but while Russell Wilson is no longer affiliated with the Seattle Seahawks and hasn't been for some time, it's an interesting topic, I think, to talk about, because we are going to lead this into a chat around how Sean Payton was using the quarterback and then Pete Carroll's usage of him and what that kind of says about Pete Carroll as a coach. And there is still, don't forget, interest from the Seahawks in the Broncos 2023 season, given that they get the lower third-round pick, the worse off third-round pick, this next draft, either from the New Orleans Saints or the Denver Broncos. And with both teams currently possessing 7-8 records, they're neck and neck for being crap. So maybe this is a good thing that Russell Wilson's benched for Seattle, or maybe it's a bad thing given Jarrett Stidham is here. But the news came out that Russell Wilson was being benched, which it came out weird. Rap sheet first with it, saying that they're strongly considering having him sit for the final 2 games, preserving financial flexibility. Odd. Then it comes out, Sean Payton it comes out that they're benching him, and Sean Payton says, yeah, sure, there's economic factors, but I would just want to win games, and I feel this gives us the best chance to win games. Then Jordan Schultz, famous son of Seattle, he tweets out that the Broncos approached Wilson 2 days after their upset win over the Kansas City Chiefs and told him he'd be made inactive for the rest of the season. And the reason for this is there's injury guarantees in Russell Wilson's contract. Essentially, there's $37 million in injury guarantees for 2025 that would become guaranteed on the 5th day of 2024 league year in March. And so, if he were to get injured in that injury trigger date, it would be bad for the Broncos and not give them financial flexibility. And basically, them doing this now indicates they're going to be cutting him. Diana Rossini saying, like the last report that I've seen, that they are. Did she say that? I don't know, but it's messed up because it's weird how NFL contracts are structured like that, and that that's legal. That the NFL can do that from a union perspective. Apparently, there were lawyers involved. The NFL Players Association was involved, but it's basically over for Russell Seattle, is what this means. And Sean Payton was pretty brutal, Griff, in his press conference, and very explicit in that Russell hadn't been good enough.
Right. I think that when Payton took the job, I think in hindsight we can say he probably told ownership, he's not going to be my quarterback no matter what happens. I don't want to work with that or scheme with that. He probably said that. The fact that this was known going back to October, like you said, it really makes it seem like it is a financial decision, but a financial decision that is in part motivated by Russ, the quarterback, not being as good, or Payton not thinking he can work with it or not wanting to. But then Payton says it's really more of a football decision and kind of minimize the financial stuff. So I think that is more Payton getting what he wants, but then taking bullets for Patton, or Patton, however you say his name, for Broncos management. And by saying it's really a football decision, not a financial one, just to make it seem like, you compete and this is the decision I made as a coach or whatever. It's probably a combination of the two. I think each one kind of feeds the other, right?
I mean, it's kind of it's whatever the way they've got here, it's kind of the perfect ending for Sean Payton, because he gets to go, hey, the quarterback's not playing well. And like, if you just look at even the most basic of statistics, they show that he's not playing well. But we've still managed to win some games and kind of turn around the culture and become a bit of a winning team. And we're kind of on the edges of the playoffs. Imagine if we had slightly better quarterback play. This guy's not my guy. I didn't choose him.
Right.
This isn't my decision. I didn't want to do this. And so I've proven myself as a coach. I've kind of won like whatever kind of political power struggle may have existed. And it's crazy that obviously Denver signed Russell Wilson to that massive contract after giving up so many picks for him. But he's still technically on the Seattle Seahawks contract. And so
is he really? He hasn't even gotten to the new money yet.
He hasn't even gotten to the new Broncos contract that they signed him to. I don't even know how to work out, like, he had $124 million of this new Denver deal. So I don't know how to work out guaranteed. So
right.
I don't know how much dead money they're going to accrue, but they're going to be in a New Orleans Saints style cap hell, which Sean Payton may well be able to navigate around. Well, it's not really New Orleans Saints style, but he's used to being up against the cap before.
Right.
They never had a quarterback with that amount of guaranteed money still on their books released.
Right. There's the question of Payton wants to convey competence as a coach, that he can get the Denver franchise back on track, right? But then there's also the idea of, was Payton sandbagging the offense just enough to make it look like, and I don't know about that, but bottom line is, I think we both agree that Russ is not as good as he was in Seattle, but intrinsically, but then simultaneously, does he have to still be this bad output-wise, results-wise? Which leads to the question of, yes, Sean Payton is still an incredibly good offensive-minded coach, but did he necessarily do his best coaching job in getting the most out of whatever is left of Russ? And I think he probably didn't. And, going from Hackett to Payton coached the crap out of what he did call much better than Hackett did. Like, the actual hands-on coaching of it, and then the micro application, game planning it and everything, was worlds better than Hackett. From a macro perspective, though, the macro strategy, it was very similar to Hackett, though. And I think that's where you isolate Payton not getting the most out of, again, whatever is left of Russ as a player. I know that sounds so like reductive of him. He's a whole human being, obviously, but as a player, it's like, well, what is of those Seattle days, what is left? If say there's only 75% of that, well, if you can access 75% of that and apply it, you can still have the 10th best offense in theory, right? In theory. EPA wise, they were still like 16th or 17th. A lot of that is driven by Russ's mobility, though, his legs, and then outside of the pocket throws on non-play action type scrambles. The actual in-structure passing game was like bottom 5 in success rate. All sorts of things weren't going right. And like you think Sean Payton surely should be able to get that going. Where Sean Payton brought value was like making sure the receivers were taking care of their part of like, the being in the right spots at the right time, the offensive line having its ish together, etc. Right? Like the things that add up to better offense, the screen game being improved a little bit, although it started to regress. Things like that. But like what I'm talking about, the macro strategy, and Matty, you were talking about it or tweeting about it earlier, like they don't boot out of under center play action. Like, why are you not doing that? That comprises a big percentage of Wilson's production in his best years. They also aren't running play action out of shotgun. And just generally, Russ is a very good play action passer. Any team needs to have a good play action game. And the fact that you aren't able to access play action for 50+% of your snaps is a huge red flag. And then not only that, that's even a bigger problem for a quarterback like Russ than say the next one, because then that means what's replacing those play action. Well, 2 reasons. If you're not running shotgun play action, that means you aren't running shotgun runs. And the reason why they aren't doing play action is because they aren't shotgun running, really. It's I'm confusing the chicken for the egg here. Not shotgun running is a problem because then you don't run shotgun play action. That's bad. But then also not having runs in the shotgun sample puts more stress on Russ when he does pure drop back pass, when there's a non-play action pass, because the defense has no run indicators. They can trot out their pass first personnel that puts more heat on the offensive line, puts more heat on Russ. And then further, because you aren't replacing those runs with intermediate dropbacks, you're just replacing them with even more quick game.
Makes you even more because Russell Wilson has a very limited menu of intermediate dropbacks. Yes.
Right. So it's like the only reason why Pete Carroll ran so much with Russell Wilson was because he was answering the question of, well, if I can't run a voluminous dropback game, if I can only do quick game and only do fades, only do go balls, what's left? Play action attempts and the run game. And just those 2 things happen to feed right into one another.
And there was that remarkable stat, Griff, wasn't there, about how it was to do with Chris Carson's gun runs. Weren't they more efficient than Chris Carson running from the shotgun was more efficient than what? Wasn't it Russell Wilson's passes? Remember it?
Yeah. So the average Chris Carson gun run was competitive with the average Russell Wilson quick game attempt.
That's right.
And so as they ran more or ran less year to year, they only replaced the quick game pass attempts. It didn't touch the shotgun play action attempts. It didn't touch the go ball attempts, the general shot plays, the general, half field read progression. So like when they did run 5-step drops, those intermediate drops, it was primarily half field reads, isolation, where Russ is good, and like really good even. They only adjust, and again, like he was still average at quick game most years, but it just kind of goes to show average quick game still isn't that beneficial. What they refused to do more of when they passed more was more of the 5-step intermediate. They only did slightly more quick game, slightly more play action, like just incrementally, but enough.
This being the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think, Peyton didn't. While I think the main problem is that Wilson just isn't good enough in the grand scheme, I still think of what he can do still, Peyton didn't get the most out of. So it's kind of.
Yeah. And to that point, Griff, but Brandon in the chat saying, I feel like Sean Payton was doing it on purpose. This year, they wanted to test the limitations of a Russell Wilson offense. Well, Brandon, I'd argue they didn't get close to testing the limitations of a Wilson offense, because really what we're saying is, I mean, gun play action is a big chunk of that. And to make that work and for that to be complemented well, you have to gun run. And in terms of their gun running, the actual stats here, the Broncos are currently 29th in total gun run attempts in the NFL per Sports Info Solutions, and shotgun runs makes up 30.9% of their total rushing attempts. So they weren't gun running often. And then despite gun play action, the Broncos being the best team in the entire NFL in points earned per play, ahead of the Seahawks, funnily enough, and then the Cowboys, and then the 49ers. The Broncos used gun play action attempts despite being really good at it. And of course, the higher the volume, the higher the sample size, maybe that would come slightly down. But Russell's been great at that throughout his career. That's how you kind of get him partly moving the football down the field, hitting those shots. They were 28th in the NFL in gun play action attempts, which is mental. And for a number to be that low, and what we're talking about there is just 30 gun play action attempts on the season. For a number to be that low, that's when you start questioning, well, that seems a bit odd. And it'd be a great question to ask Sean Payton, very specific question, probably never gets asked anymore. Griff's dogs are very unhappy with it too.
Yeah, and they're going to have to deal with it somehow. Because
Ali and Brady. No, it's fine.
Ali and Brady always
I forgot the name of your new dog.
Miles,
that's right.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Who is so upset about this?
You said they're only averaging like 2 a game shotgun attempts. They average like 4 or 5 a game. And that right there is like, anywhere from 50 to 100 yards a game of production that is more efficient than the alternative, right? Even if it's the same volume, it's not coming on the same amount of attempts, right? So it's a one way to keep series alive, and it benefits the other parts of the shotgun sample too, right? So it's about balance. You become so restrictive because that means the only thing you're doing in shotgun is stick and slants, which is quick game with Russ, maybe spacing and go balls.
The one good thing I felt that they did was stick or like flat corners mirrored, but then with the back over the middle kind of deeper. That seemed like an effective and the back over the middle became almost the primary, but that was like the one. It wasn't new, but they did it at a higher volume.
Yeah. And well, and the other thing is like Peyton was getting him to check down more, right? But what's weird is like we wanted him to check down more in Seattle to replace otherwise negative plays with the check down as the alternative, so you can either remain neutral or maybe get something positive.
Yeah, or just sacks. hit the check down quicker rather than you're holding out on the deep. They sink underneath that, or they've clamped the check down because you haven't hit it in structure, whatever. Sure. And then what you get is play extension to try and hit the deep ball because you're not hitting the check down. And then that results in, throwaways or sacks, as you say.
Right. And so he is checking the ball down now, but they're not replacing the sacks. He's still getting sacked just as much, even more. So he's just turning down downfield looks and checking down, as opposed to what he was doing in Seattle, where, he was still going downfield at the same clip, still accessing the intermediate, at least outside the numbers, at the same clip. But then when he wasn't doing those things, he was getting sacked. Now he's still getting sacked and replacing those intermediate chunk gains and downfield gains with checkdowns. It's just bizarre. And that's why his EPA on call dropbacks is like respectable. That's because of the scrambling production, the rushing production. And he's having one of his best scrambling years ever, which is weird. I mean, he lost weight. Maybe it's not that weird.
He lost weight, but then
attempts are like second worst in his career, only better than last year, 2022 Hackett.
And part of that is a lack of probably the under center bootleg stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and not doing that is very unusual, and maybe that explains. Maybe he's got fresher legs when he needs them, along with hitting the check down. I don't know.
Well, last year, because Hackett didn't run boots with him either, and you think, well, he put on weights, he wanted to be more durable in the pocket, maybe he doesn't want to be out on the move as much. But okay, Russell Wilson at 225 is still more mobile than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins still runs speedy boots a year.
They have the receiver skill sets for it, right?
They absolutely do. Like, so, like when and then Peyton said, however, much disdain Sean Payton has for Russell Wilson, what he said before when he was doing his media stuff on Fox, and they were talking about what's wrong with Russ.
Call the hits.
Yeah, he's like, call all the greatest hits, call the hits. And he listed off bootlegs, deep post shots.
Move in the pocket. He literally
Moving the
screamed
pocket.
about moving the pocket. So
And then
why?
he proceeded to do the same stuff Hackett did, just applied better.
Yeah. So
The whole
that
thing
is
is
slightly
weird.
unusual.
It's
How
really
similar?
weird.
So how similar was the Peyton offense with Jameis Winston? Did they use boots?
What they did with Jameis was I don't remember if they did boots, but what they did, I mean, they had the real 5-step drop install in there.
And you can't do that with Russ.
You can't. And they had some deep post stuff. They definitely had deep pocket play action from under center, but they didn't pass that much with him. But I think that was also because the receivers got hurt. Obviously, Bruce Arians threw all over the place with Jameis Winston. So, and maybe Peyton wanted to shorten the game, etc. Right? I think he had a defense, so he was like, "I'll just lean into this right now." It's worth checking to see if they booted with Jameis Winston. I mean, it could be. I asked Seth Galino, why don't they boot? He's like, well, Peyton doesn't really historically boot that much. But like, I'm thinking that's when you have Drew Brees, sure, but you don't boot that much with Drew Brees.
And which when you said the comments about moving the pocket with Russ, and very unusual.
It's all weird, right?
Very, very weird. And not only does this help Peyton, kind of win any potential power struggle with a quarterback who in the past has his agent has been quite vocal. He's going to get whoever he wants in. He's kind of avoid the blame for it, etc., etc. It does also, if he wanted to, allow him to pressure a general manager who he didn't choose in George Payton, and if he wanted to, I imagine he could probably get his own guy in. We'll have to see how that plays out. But it basically makes Payton the big dog in Denver after 1 year, along with getting paid a lot of money to coach there. And, like I said, they did appear to be an upwards trajectory, which, I mean, if you just watch the games, you don't even have to look at the stats. If you watch the games, it was kind of crazy football on offense with then there's still some Russell magic moments. But
yeah, his scrambling on third downs, rushing and throwing was like, whoa, I haven't seen that.
Receivers and tight ends seem to get more on the kind of page of the scramble rules and go up and get it. And I mean, that Patriots game we watched on Christmas Eve, we watched it together, didn't we? And
yeah,
it's just ridiculous.
Right.
They almost won against a terrible team. But anyway.
Yeah, it was crazy. Real quick, we'll just spend like a minute on it. Where do you think Russ goes from here once he gets cut or traded?
Well, Griff, perfect segue, because if the Broncos are to trade Russell Wilson before June the 1st, that would leave them with a staggering $68 million in dead cap money next year. Or Denver could convince the acquiring team to pay $22 million of his option bonus. That the team trading for him would owe Russell Wilson $54 million over the next 2 years if they didn't pick up that bonus, and $76 million if they did, obviously. So that's a crazy kind of contract to trade for before June the 1st. But all it takes is two teams to be interested, and as we've seen in the NFL, more picks can be traded for more cash, basically. So perhaps they could work that out, but the other thing is the Broncos could designate Russell Wilson as a post-June 1st release after this season, and they'd owe him $85 million in dead money spread over 2 seasons. They'd then be on the books for $35.4 million in 2024, $49.6 million in 2025. They'd also owe him $39 million in cash for 2024. It would be a bit of a mess. I mean, Washington's interesting. Pittsburgh, potentially. Remember Mike Sando when he was reporting on potential Russell landing spots before the news had happened that he'd actually been traded way before. I think it was in late December when it all started kicking up again.
Yeah.
He said that a source told him that Pittsburgh wouldn't be star-studded enough for Russell Wilson. I mean, he did eventually go to Denver, which isn't exactly
Right. Star-studded.
star-studded. But I don't think, beggars can't be
Unless-
choosers.
Unless you like the proximity to the Mannings and the Waltons reach, in the business world, which is fine. I'm not dogging that.
Yeah,
Russ is a budding venture capitalist at this point. He's
of
an
course.
entrepreneur.
This is fascinating because it's really, this past offseason, Peyton spent ages talking about. Did he say something along the lines of like, "Don't be a politician, be a quarterback"?
Yeah.
Don't be running. You're not running for the next president, didn't he say?
Yeah, and that's Peyton setting the stage for that he hates this guy. And that, I'm not siding with Peyton on, like, Peyton himself is a miserable person, but it was clear from the onset.
Yeah,
like,
he was
Peyton
irritated by him.
Yeah, Peyton isn't even being sincere with that. He is signaling to Russ and his camp, I have no respect for you.
I am the captain now,
Yeah. I think that if it's trade, they won't trade in division. I think the best place for Russ to go is Vegas. And I think we actually know that was one of his main places he wanted to go. And
really?
You look at he wanted
that is what they do organizationally. They're not
on the low. Russell Wilson wanted to be a Raider for a long time, even before a lot of the drama came out. Anyway, so the reason why is because he wanted Vegas.
I don't know why the problem is, for me, the finances. But how much can he realistically ask for?
I think that's why he wants to be cut, so he can choose, because he'll
absolutely.
The reason why the Raiders make sense is one, location that was always on his list. Secondly, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer. And then, if they promote, is it Antonio Pierce? Is that his name? The interim coach?
Yeah, because the other factor to this, Griff, is Russell does have a no trade clause in his current contract as well.
Right. So if you like Pierce as a head coach for the vibes, then you go get Darrell Bevel or Brian Schottenheimer, who are not calling plays, but they are OCs, but they would like to.
Or you just go, hey, Dave Canales become a head coach. Sorry, Antonio, but that would be odd.
But then the other alternative option is, if you go the trade route and there's mutual agreement, trade him to Tampa and do a Baker for Russ swap. Sean Payton, a lucky prophet on Twitter, a data analyst, really cool guy. He was commenting how Sean Payton loves Baker Mayfield, and he's been on record saying that. And the people that some people said Baker Mayfield reminded them of the most his rookie year, when he was actually really good, was Drew Brees stylistically. And then Baker regressed in the pocket and everything. But he was really promising his rookie year. It's something that he's only slowly started to recapture with Dave Canales, not even Kevin Stefanski, right? So if they do that swap, and then Canales is like, I surely know how to, what works best with Russ, at least, I don't know, whatever he's got, I can maximize it. You still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin.
But I don't know. Baker's played well.
Baker's played well, but the thing is, Peyton might make it worthwhile for Tampa by throwing in an extra pick to get Baker. And then, Russ can go do his whole revenge tour and try to prove him wrong thing, right?
I don't think it's worth the upheaval and the, you're building something with a quarterback, and also contract wise. Baker Mayfield's contract is void salaries, isn't it, this year? But
right.
You probably pay him less, and I don't know.
Right. The whole league is going to view Russ as a huge risk right now, right? Just because even if
you'd have to make it almost an open competition.
Right. Even if you're confident.
Then how much are you going to pay someone like that?
Right. Yeah, you can't. So that's why you sign some weird fake deal where there's a bunch of fake money on there.
Incentives, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. But some team is gonna sign him. He's not gonna retire. The Commanders, maybe. If they keep
Atlanta with Arthur Smith would be comical.
Arthur would not want him.
He'd hate him. Be like, you can't throw a dig, man.
Yeah, then that's the only thing Arthur knows how to scheme up. No, what needs to happen is Falcons need to fire Arthur Smith, and the Seahawks need to hire him in a consultant role and give Waldron some pointers here and there, and then there'll be finally a complete offense. Anyway, yeah, Patriots is funny to think about.
What a mess. And it does require
That's a good point. That's a good point, Ricardo.
Yeah, very good point.
There are poverty franchises that want to sell tickets, says Ricardo. So
what about the Panthers are like, hey, Bryce Young's not the guy, and Tepper just steps in and goes, I've seen the Russell Wilson highlights. Hey, GM Scott Fitter, you know this guy. Build something around him.
Well,
sell me tickets.
We have to remember that the biggest advocate for Russ during the draft process were the scouts, was Schneider and his team. It wasn't the coaching staff. The coaching staff came around on him because they admired him so much once they got him in the building. But it was John who got him in the building.
Russell Wilson, the next Carolina Panther.
I mean, they have such a bad roster. It wouldn't work, but
no.
Anyway, we should talk about the Seahawks.
Yeah, we should. But one last thing, Griff. Is it better for the Seahawks and rooting for this draft pick that Jarrett Stidham is starting, or worse?
We want the highest draft pick, right?
The worst draft pick, yeah. So we want Denver to lose, and we want the Saints to lose.
Yeah, we want them to lose. It would be very funny if Sean Payton starts throwing 60% of the time on early downs with Jarrett Stidham. It would
and like the intermediate is a thing, yeah.
The thing is, though, you can't install more offense that quickly, so it probably won't. Man, even though
I think it's worse for the Seahawks, Griff. I think this is a bad. I think Jarrett Stidham helps Denver win more games.
Think so?
Yeah.
The thing is that, like, Sean Payton is right about Russ, the player. That doesn't mean he's not an asshole.
Oh, absolutely. And even how this has been reported, like, it's very odd seeing the phases of it. Of like, it's basically, I mean, this is my read, this is my opinion. Don't get at me. It seems as though the rap sheet one was kind of GM kind of ownership. Hey, here's our take on this. And then Peyton gets to do his own press conference where he just goes, yeah, there's economics, but I just want to win games, and Stidham's going to win us games, and Russell's a great guy, etc., etc. And then in comes Russell Wilson's camp going, they said they were going to bench him in October.
Yeah. But, like Russell Wilson is already sub-liking on Twitter. Go check his likes. Go check Jay Keep's likes. They're going to do a full court press of damage control PR. They're going to spill their side of the story.
So there's going to be briefing against Peyton. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like this circus is just getting started. The fact that thing about the report going all the way back to October that didn't leak says volumes, because they were both waiting on that grenade. They're both sitting on that grenade waiting to see how to play it out.
We were talking about, I mean, watching that game, but Peyton's sideline behavior and just his expressions and the way he was looking, it was very odd. The body language of Russell, and then just like almost over exuberant, over coaching, and then there's been numerous times on the sideline where he's just like straight up just screamed at Russell about something.
Yeah. Man, we'll see.
Yeah. And this is the thing. Russell Wilson finishes the season with a stat line of 3,070 passing yards, 28 passing touchdowns, 8 picks, 66.4% completion percentage, and a 98 passer rating. Yeah, as an agent, like, what's he called? Mark Rogers. He can sell the crap out of that. Hey, this guy's won a Super Bowl. And so I know, like, advanced wise, like if you look at EPA or points earned or
QBR,
or
because the reason why Russ's QBR is so low is because it takes out the Hail Marys. Average at the target. QBR takes out the Hail Marys, adjusts for opponent, And then I think also like takes out garbage time and kind of adjusts for scrambling a little bit. And that's why he's like 20th in QBR.
Yeah. He's been sacked over 100 times in Denver.
This is his most sacked season of his career. Like the most sacked season of his career, in which he's also checking down the most he ever has. Something is wrong.
Which again is the kind of limited returns. If you're not going to maximize the the 3 buckets we just spoke about, you're not going to use them, then there's diminishing returns of everything else.
Right.
It's all coming kind of full circle to what we kind of said. We've said all this before on this podcast, but it's an interesting one.
The book has been completely closed on did Pete use Russ right?
Yeah.
And it was always a false dilemma. It doesn't make Russ any of a less quarterback. It's just that what we were seeing was more or less the ceiling, and we bemoaned how this should be more. The 2018 offense should have been more. The 2019 offense should have been more. 2020 offense, crashed and burned because Pete Carroll meddled and stepped in. Like, no, none of that's true. That's pretty much as good as it gets when the quarterback run game is no longer involved. And that is still a top 10 offense. You can win a Super Bowl.
And that's okay. That's
okay.
Just how it is. That's just who he is. That's just how it is. And that's the point we should have mentioned, Griff. Pete Carroll knew what he was doing with Russell Wilson, and the situation, as can happen when people work together for a while or together for a while, it became poisoned, and on both sides there was stuff said, and well, not really actually, but there was certainly, the front office was, it came out there exploring options at quarterback, and should they have done that? Blah blah blah. Did they mishandle some things? Possibly, and it got messy divorce and whatever. But ultimately, what ruined the Seahawks with Russell Wilson was let Russ cook. It poisoned everything massively, and it's broken him. It's broken him. It's actually crazy. And we watched it and we saw it all play out. And we said, so good for us. Yeah. We're so happy about this.
I still want to know. I still want to know what really broke Russ down in the second half of 2020, like in his process. I mean, some of those games weren't as bad as his stat line. He got a little unlucky. Some go balls weren't connected on. But I really want to know, he kind of rebounded in 2021.
Well, it was mainly the too high shells. I felt we'd have to go back and look at it, but it's probably leaning too much into one of the buckets, and ultimately they couldn't run the ball effectively when they needed to.
The gun run game did fall apart a little bit.
And that, maybe that's an emphasis thing. Maybe that's just the line issue. But
yeah, let's do a quick intermission.
The backs got banged up, didn't they? Yeah, quick remission. Griff, you go and do that. I'll talk over you.
BRB.
Right, people. Oh no, you can see my messy room. Oh well. Right, Seahawks injury report. The Seahawks players are injured. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Hopefully they're okay for when the Seahawks have to play. Also, this game is on New Year's Eve. And for me, that's not very good because I have to justify watching the Seahawks as basically the clocks strike midnight for me. So I have to do some negotiations there. But anyway, it is what it is. This is the injury report, and it's pretty busy, as I said. The Eskridge out with a ribs injury. That is mysterious. Pete Carroll said they didn't have to tell the reporters anymore on that, but there'd be more information on it. Jason Peters showing up with a foot injury. Kenneth Walker with a shoulder/illness. He had this shoulder thing last week. There has been an illness going around the camp. Nick Ballore out with a knee. I know he'd been dealing with that. Jordan Brooks with an ankle. Doesn't sound positive for Brooks making it back this week, which would mean Devin Bush is thrust into the weak side Jack inside linebacker role and will be playing against his old team Pittsburgh in a revenge matchup. So that's fun for him, but Brooks is a massive miss. Now, Bush is kind of fast and, he looked like a guy who'd been preparing to play the big nickel role all week last Sunday and then was put into the weak side inside backer role, which is slightly different. He looked a bit rusty, a bit unprepared and a bit slow to stuff. You'd hope after a week preparing fully for this weak side backer role, knowing Brooks is out, likely out, that he'd be a bit more polished. Mario Edwards out with a knee injury, which would be a significant loss, really. I mean, Miles Adams has been active recently, and he'd kind of fill in for Mario, but Edwards has been sneaky effective, honestly, on the D line, particularly against the run, kind of getting after it. He plays a bit of nose, he plays a bit of three tech. Griff has returned. Edwards would be a big loss. Draymond Jones out with a shoulder. I mean, you just don't know at this point when it's on a Wednesday how real these not real, how damaging these are. If Pete Carroll doesn't get asked about them, he rarely going to say anything about them at this point in the week, but just stuff to monitor. And then no fan knee injury, not participating. So interesting. But the really positive takeaway from all of this, Jamal Adams making his way back with a knee injury, having to go in practice. That's a big positive. Hopefully it's not too soon. It probably is, given the nature of that injury. And, I guess he's kind of doing load management, but he'll probably still be kind of knee-wise going to be slightly limited movement-wise, you'd think. But maybe mentally he's had a chance to rest and kind of recuperate, rehab his mind and not make kind of the mistakes, correct the reasons for those mistakes happening. And then the other really exciting news is Devon Witherspoon, the rookie 5th overall selection, absolute sensation, the nickel. He is a limited participant with that hip pointer injury. And Pete Carroll said he was, I forget the term he used, but he was very enthusiastic in however Pete Carroll phrased it. So that's huge because, you wondered if he'd be done for the season. It does sound like a really painful injury, but it sounds like he's going to make it back. Maybe not this Sunday. We'll have to see, but how he kind of recovers from this limited participation on Wednesday. But if he can get back for, later, that's massive, absolutely massive. So there you go. And Jackson Smith and Jigba showing up with a knee after he appeared to kind of hurt himself in Tennessee. Griff, what stands out to you about this?
I mean, the main thing I think of is how are they going to manage nickel and weak side linebacker, right? And how that might affect the game plan. If Devin can't go, that means obviously it means what it means. We're going to see Artie or Kobe again. One way to offset no Brooks is to be able to intersperse Jamal, who is even a limited Jamal is probably a good box player still. He's been really good in the box as a run defender when he's been down there. It'd be a dime situation, right? Hopefully you're only playing cover 3 in that sense.
On that point and dimed, Kobe Bryant has looked really, really rusty. Now it could be he just needs a few games under his belt, but I mean, this past week he made 3 plays which stand out as like, ugh.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, he hasn't played behind. Well, that's not true. I was going to say he hasn't played nickel, very much in the new philosophy of what they're doing. And I don't know, man. Like the middle month of last year, he played really good ball, and then he just kind of fell back down to earth.
Right, but this was just clear passing down stuff, like not even to do with like fits or anything.
I know. You're right. I don't know. It's potentially dire straits. They really need Devin. I think Devin can make a big difference. There would be a big domino effect there if he can go. 1, he's just a good player, and then 2, it makes it easier to control other things. It makes it easier to manage not having Brooks there. That's a huge loss.
There you go. Yeah, it really is. That they just need more speed on the field, and Tennessee's not the type of opponent to expose your lack of speed. The Steelers, possibly not either, but yeah. I mean, we're not there yet. But getting Jordan Brooks, like, with an ankle, if you could get him, like, 3 weeks rest, 2 weeks rest, and still win, that would be probably quite nice.
Yeah.
But they don't really have that luxury, so be quiet, Matthew.
It's fair to expect to be able to win the Cardinals game without him. The Steelers game, they really, really need all hands on deck. So they're going to have to find a way to do it without him.
Yeah. Right. John, thank you very much for the donation. Hey, guys, can you touch on and if you want to donate, super chat feature on YouTube is very useful. The Stripe link I'll put in the description afterwards. I know it's not in there right now. or you can find it on a previous video. So John says, hey guys, can you touch on the development of Derick Hall, the Seahawks second round pick in this past draft, the outside backer, and Cameron Young, the Seahawks fourth round pick as the nose tackle? I know you've mentioned Derick Hall's playing fine, but I saw Griff saying Young is unplayable at the moment. As always, thanks a ton for the coverage. Good to have you back, Griff. Griff, do you have thoughts on that?
I just don't think Cam Young is quite ready, NFL ready yet. He just needs another year. Some rookies are like that, right? He plays high, but that's okay in college because he was still a really technical player. Hands were in the right spot. He's really smart, reactive and stuff. I just don't think, he's caught up to NFL speed yet, and that makes his high pad level, kind of high hip level, be more of a problem. At nose tackle, he's getting uprooted and shoved. Matty, you mentioned he's good at crossing face. He is good at crossing face, but then he's not good at covering ground to close off like a B-gap bubble. If he's, the one technique, he'll cross face on the guard if they pull the center or something, but he's not able to really work down the line, at least not when the second level isn't fitting it up right. So I just think, like, for a rookie, he's just not quite the rotational guy they need him to be, but he will be year two. I have no doubts about him.
Yeah, what I'd say about him is, just to add in to what Griff said, in college he was moving a lot, so they'd slant their line, they'd stunt, they'd do lots of stuff, and so when you're moving, you naturally you shouldn't, but you do because you're getting out of your stance, so you're not staying low that as much. Whereas here, he's not obviously moving nearly as much, and so getting that kind of consistent pad level is probably kind of an adjustment for him. And when we say cross face, that's when, as a nose tackle, the guard like on your side. So say you're playing on the left inside shoulder of the left outside shoulder of the center, and so the guard to your right pulls. That's when you're kind of seeing that, recognizing the center's back blocking you, and you're striking him and like swimming over the top of him, or just crossing his face to kind of adapt for the extra gap moving to your left as the guard pulls around. And why he's probably quite good at crossing faces, well, that's kind of like moving like after the snap, sideways, lateral kind of thing. And so he's probably in tune to that, along with the fact he does get a bit up. So he's just kind of a dude out there, like, not in a good way. He's just kind of there. But he's probably learning. He doesn't get moved that much despite the high pad level, which kind of speaks to his strength, but he also doesn't really get much knockback. He kind of there's quite a few reps where it looks like patty cake, or
I guess maybe I'm latching onto some plays against the Eagles where I think that some of those
combos were
gave him trouble.
Yeah, he's kind of,
but he's a low snap rookie. It's not a big deal. It's just, as of right now, it's is what it is. Yeah. As far as Derick Hall goes, I feel like it's just another Mafe situation. He just needs more reps, and like everything about him will kind of fall into place. Like, he's not able to find his angles yet. He's not able to time his get off yet. He's not able to gain the protection, jump the snap to really get a jump. He has handwork. He just hasn't used a lot of it. He hasn't been in position to use it, kind of like Mafe last year as a rookie. And then also in the run game, like, he's really physical. He'll get knocked back, but he doesn't know, like, he can't feel out the timing and spacing, like when to detach from the block, when to try to shed it. And then, like, if he's steering a block, which he can do really well, that's what's one thing that is so indicative of how talented he is. He's 255 and can manhandle tackles, but then he'll run himself out of the play doing it. He's not staying coordinated with the rest of his defenders and the overall, philosophy of the run fit, mechanic of the run fit. So it's things like that. It's like, yeah, he's given up some big run plays, even when he's like demonstrating his prowess, right? So, and what he is capable of. So it's just like the guy needs more reps.
It's all going quite fast, just going quite fast for him. And there's the occasional splash, and he has for his build especially. I mean, he is quite dense, but he has real kind of power to him. I mean, he's quite a short dude, right? So
yeah, I think as good as Nwosu is and as good as Mafe is even exceeding my expectations. I still think Derick Hall has the most potential of the three. I think year 2, year 3, Derick Hall, because he's also 21. Mafe's 25 right now.
Right.
Derick Hall is only 21, 22. His 23 year 24 season, I think, will be better than any season we've currently seen of Mafe and Nwosu. And maybe Mafe gets even better next year, right?
Because of his ability, like you think, to bend through contact as well as a pass rusher.
He has Mafe's play strength, Nwosu's play strength and feel with Daryl Taylor's get off, I think, and maybe almost pure bend. And I just think it's a matter of time before that comes together. What he needs to acquire are those knockdown moves that Mafe has.
That's very exciting.
But I really think Derick Hall is just in pre-draft. I was low on him. I didn't like the pick. I went back and watched more of him. I was like, oh, I really missed a lot of this. He's working with stuff that neither Nwosu or Mafe have.
Yeah.
In totality.
That was so fun going back through that.
Yeah, because I was like, I am negative about this pick, and I completely 180'd on my perspective of him.
So, another thing to kind of talk about, you saying how Derick Hall can play more snaps, or needs to play more snaps. Well, last week, Seattle didn't list Frank Clark as inactive. He is on the active roster. Yes.
Yeah.
So they didn't list him as inactive. And then you look at the snap counts, and he'd missed all of practice with an illness. This is after he just didn't travel down to the Cowboys game, I think it was, presumably because they told him he wasn't going to play as often because they plan to run base defense and he doesn't drop into pass coverage as well as they probably would like, and as well as probably Hall can do it, and Mafe probably can do it in a pinch. And Taylor's kind of learned it in their system a bit more. Then he's out with an illness this past week. And then this past game against at the Titans, Frank Clark takes 0 snaps. He's not even listed, despite being active on the game, which is, what are you doing here? Like, we need you to play special teams. So he's very much a luxury player at this point. Derick Hall plays 11 snaps, so 17% of them. Obviously, the emergence of Draymond Jones on the edge, which kind of helps their edge setting as like a bigger type end, does help the defense. And then today, Frank Clark is again on the injury report as a non-participant, as a non-injury related resting player. So there's something going on really with him, I would suggest, where he has maybe potentially lost to Derick Hall. So,
yeah. So which means Hall's showing good stuff in practice, right?
Yeah.
Think?
Yeah. Or Pete Carroll mentioned wanting to get Derick Hall more involved. Possibly. That's fed back to the coaching staff. Frank Clark's told his snaps are going down. He's like, hell nah. And then they're like an impasse. But because I had to double check. Frank Clark's definitely on the active roster, isn't he?
I believe so. It's not like a practice squad call up.
That's absolutely crazy. Right. And yeah, he did look a bit rusty and light and not really getting how they wanted the edge players to play, although I did see a bit of improvement there. Narc, thank you for the donation. What about Russell Wilson to Arizona? Geno Smith says 3-3. Well, I imagine, Geno Smith had a good working relationship with Russell Wilson by all accounts and learned a lot from him. And it is a bit weird that they're kind of, it's the agent who got it, but it's weird that it's allowed the injury guarantee deal and how that all shakes out with Denver just going, hey, well, we don't want you getting injured, so we're just not going to play you. I mean, is that right? But should that be allowed? NFL Players Association with their current collective bargaining agreement, there's a lot of things in there which are a bit funky, aren't there?
Yeah.
Russell to Arizona, I don't see it, but
I don't think so. I mean, they would
especially after Kyler, like they probably.
Yeah. Agreed. All right.
Right, Griff.
Defense.
We can't spend too long on this. The Russell Wilson news is really kind of taken.
It's gripped us apparently. We have all this pent up thoughts that We people know that have not hesitated to criticize Russ, but we've said 1,000 times, like, we still think you can run an offense with him, right? I predicted out, as much as critical as I was, as much as I defended Pete through that whole thing, I consistently said, it's still a false dilemma. Like, they're both good, etc. I still predicted that the Broncos would be good and that Russ would, deliver a really good offense. I was completely wrong about that.
I said I was less confident because when the comments around Hackett came out, because I was like, well, this is going to be like Hackett. Well, Hackett as a coach gave me pause, but also, all the comments about it being a Russ offense and like how much of that, and like, you really, after you kind of wanted lessons to have been learned and it to be kept in check almost, but it didn't sound like that at all. And what you got was like just complete crap.
It was just the worst version of like
just a mess. But this year I did feel, and the kind of, like we said, the basic numbers read fine. But this year I thought with his ego kind of being kept in check, Peyton kind of wearing him down, I thought they'd be able to do like just what from the eye test. I thought it would look better and they'd be able to make something out of it, but they haven't. And that's where I come back to, the lack of buckets we spoke about. And
weird. I think the one word I'll use is weird. The whole thing has been weird, start to finish.
Yeah. Right. So Seahawks defense.
Diplomatically, I'm not saying it's all Russ. I'm saying the whole thing, all things considered.
Yeah.
The one word I'll use is weird.
We get it.
All right.
You hate Russ. No, I'm the toxic one, remember?
All right.
Right. Defense, Griff. So the Seahawks defense in this game, as we spoke about, they allowed in terms of explosive plays, they kept them way down. They allowed just 3 explosive plays, and one of them was a Ryan Tannehill scramble. One of them was super late in the fourth quarter, like the end of game thing on the shallow crosser where I think they busted the coverage. And then the other one was a Derrick Henry 12-yard carry. So that is kind of nuts. Like, just 3 explosive plays. They always want to keep that down. Of course, they didn't actually have any turnovers until, well, it wasn't even a turnover. The clock just ran out. So they would like the turnovers to be up, but they did fairly well there. And then the issue really, and Griff asked you for your overall impressions, but as we said kind of in our post-game show, the real issue for Seattle was the Titans' run game, where they averaged, they had a 59% success rate running the ball, which is 97th percentile. When they ran the ball on early down, so first and second down, that is, their success rate was 95%, I believe that is, which is 95th percentile. Sorry, 54%, which is 95th percentile. And then late down runs, they were 93rd percentile. So they could just run the ball basically at will, despite them not getting explosive runs necessarily. They were just running the ball really, really well. So, Griff, what do you make of the defense overall?
What do I think the defense overall is? That I think it's good that the Titans pass offense is really built off play action. The Seahawks have had good play action pass defense the whole time, and it was nice to see that sustained strength against strength, and the Seahawks won out. They were able to tackle the check down as well. That's like really important. The pass rush helped them do that, so it's nice to see that continue. The drop back game, Tannehill didn't get much going there either. Those are all good signs. The run defense, it was really frustrating, but it happened the way it should have happened. they were really having issues like the C gap and D gap bubbles on the edge, right? And like Bobby is a functional run defender when the edge play is strong. Nwosu not being involved has, Nwosu himself isn't the difference between a top 5 run defense and like a bottom 10 one himself, but his presence, him not being there has caused a chain reaction of things.
There's knock-on effects.
Yeah, so Bobby could no longer access the things that makes Bobby still a good run defender. Now he's being stretched. If Bobby was better, they could accommodate Nwosu's absence easier. But because he can't, then he has to be more aggressive against the run in some areas, and that means they have to scheme differently so that they have to scheme differently for the pass to accommodate Bobby being more aggressive against the run, because he can't put his chips in the pass basket as much, right? So like there's this chain reaction, going on here.
So
it also puts more of the corners to come up and play the run, and because they have to play the run harder, they are getting play action now. Like Tariq Woolen was really aggressive against the 49ers playing that one play, and he's not even in the run fit. He's just trying to give extra help, then he gets play action. He's not even in the run fit. So, a series of things, but and then Brooks going out really hurt it. But I really think it kind of goes back to their talent level with the players on the field with all the injuries. Like that's what they probably should be. It's not that the tackles were fine by and large.
Now, Griff, Pete Carroll actually said on his radio show that there may be a possible other explanation for this. He was asked about what the adjustments he was referring to were in the press conference, and he said, "I'm not going to tell you that," but he described them as having to rope-a-doping the run game a bit. But in the radio show, he said he was posed by Mike Salk a question on Jason Kelce saying how the Seahawks offense made it hard on them to get explosives versus the Eagles. And then obviously the following week, the Seahawks, as we've said, limit the Titans offense to just the 3 explosive plays. And Pete Carroll says, we did make a couple of adjustments to try to create that a few weeks ago, a better sense of us controlling what's going on downfield. And it did show up. Last couple of weeks, it's been really important games for us pass coverage-wise, and it's helped us out. We didn't get the sacks a week ago, but this week we certainly had a bunch of pressures and the sacks that went along with it. And we've been able to eliminate the hot shot receivers that they got, and Hopkins didn't have a big game against us, and AJ Brown didn't have a good game against us the week before. Those are all part of it. So it's a really good part of our game. I would love to keep that intact as we go down the stretch here, even though we've had to, rope-a-dope the running game a little bit here, and not the way we'd like to do it, but it's come off of really good pass defense days, and the guys on the back end are doing it, and the rush guys are contributing. So we have adjusted some things to make that come to life, and I'm glad to see that happening. So, Griff, what are the adjustments that you've observed that are removing explosive plays from and removing big days for these big-time receivers, but also impacting the run defense? Is there anything?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't. What do you think? Because I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, Clint Hurtt said that we have ways of playing coverage to certain receivers, and we were doing that for when he was talking about the Eagles game, which would be where you call Zeus and then the number Zeus number 11, or what does Hopkins wear? Is he 11 too? No.
I don't think so. I honestly don't know.
10. Zeus 10. And so what that means is basically you're going to play too high defense. So you're going to be light in the box, but also you're kind of playing your coverage first and then trying to make your front work with that. But if teams can kind of work out what you're doing, they can kind of get you in tougher looks for your run defense because you're shading your coverage to that receiver. Generally, you'll play like a cover 2 to that receiver side, and so you'll have a cloud and then like a doubling half player. But occasionally in the slot, you play like quarters, but have the inside quarter player like playing really aggressive to that receiver. But I also saw that's part of what I think was happening. I think there's a bit of shading coverage to Hopkins, but not much of the Zeus stuff. I think there was more of, and I need to go over the other tools, but I think generally That's one of them. So if we're saying a couple and it's strictly a couple of adjustments, I think the other is a bit more too high presentation pre-snap. Now, annoyingly,
Yeah.
I haven't gone through and when I've charted every single game this season, because I presumed that the Seahawks generally were going to play a bit less of that in the early downs, and so how much can you learn from too high disguise? I haven't charted that, so I'm going to have to go through and chart all of that. But it feels like in the last 2 weeks there's been a bit more too high presentation at the snap, and then coming down into the box if required. They may also have run a bit more too high in this game. To be heavy in the box, but and that obviously meaning you are lacking that immediate kind of 8-man box look, even if you're playing middle field close. So getting the +1 advantage in the box, it's coming from further back.
Yeah.
Other things is that they've started playing a 2-eye nose tackle when they get Y off, but that's just an angles thing to help the run defense. I don't think that's a philosophical change necessarily. That was also an adjustment they got to early in the year.
I did notice against under center they were playing a little more too high, and I think that was because they wanted to drive on the play action routes. But
drive on the play action and try get the alert out of that into the run, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I do think that did hurt them a little bit against the run. That extra gap on the perimeter was honestly a problem. So we did see some like line movement, I think, to steal gaps, some pirate stunting and stuff. I do think that they dialed that up a little bit. I think that they were, before Brooks went out, I think that they were at a point where they could recover and adjust a little bit. But with him going down, I mean, they lost a lot of margin for error. There was one play early on where there's a pirate stunt, and for whatever reason, Bobby is the backside backer. He doesn't fall back off the pirate. He just crashes front side. And then Brooks sees that, and then Brooks kind of falls back, and it could have been an explosive run, and Brooks stops it for 4 or 5 yards. And I wonder, okay, maybe it's like game planned, but it was just things like that. So not having Brooks on the field is honestly a problem. And I wanted to like Devin Bush. I just didn't see it. But again, it's like he didn't go into this game looking to play Will. He thought he was going to have to be like an extra nickel. So.
Yeah. Yep. That seems about fair. And I guess their adjustment down the stretch of this game was just to play more like safety down in the box. Like, and the run defense didn't like massively improve, but it did a fair bit. And again, I need to go through the charting in more detail, but it felt like when they had a dude down in the box, they were more
better.
stout generally.
And they should be, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what you'd expect, yeah. And the thing with this as well is it would have been nice for Pete Carroll to kind of get asked about it in more detail. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that, but he was speaking like the Monday after, where he won't have had his meeting yet. The Monday morning after, he won't have been able to like fully dive. Well, it's not the Monday, but the day after the game. Well, it is the Monday. Christmas has got me out of whack. What I'm saying is he won't have been able to meet with his staff and actually explore what precisely happened and what their exact data from each call was. So he kind of, and he's also speaking in the abstract for the listener, but or not the abstract, but the wider kind of broader stuff. But generally, I feel they're kind of trying to present more kind of too high looks at the snap to disguise stuff, to give them better stuff for like the play action teams, but also be able to shade coverage to these big receivers. And that doesn't just mean Zeus, where you play the cover 2 to that receiver or the cover 4 to that Caesar, but it also means, I mean, if it's quarters, that quarter safety kind of is aggressively looking for that dude. If he's the backside guy and the dig's coming from the opposite side, he's looking to hit it quite hard. Or if he's on the side of that receiver, he's looking to almost bracket him in a different way, which I don't know what they'd call that. I need to look at the thing. But yeah.
Matty, sorry to do this to you. I'm going to have to dip for like an indefinite period of time.
Go for it.
I might be able to come back. I don't know.
No, just go, bro.
I don't know how long you're going to go for. So
just go.
Something came up. I'll just mute myself for now, but we'll play it by ear.
You can just go. It's fine.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Griff. Right, everyone say goodbye to Griff. Let me catch up with the chat, and then we'll explore a few plays of tape because it is 4 a.m. here. Wow. Sheer West, thank you so much for the donation. Hi, Matty. Can you arrange to be at more press conferences? Well, I could arrange to be at more press conferences if I had a plane to fly over to Seattle, Sheer. Generally, how it works is the Seahawks are very kind, and when Pete Carroll does his press conferences via Zoom, they let me attend, which tends to be after road games. However, this past game with the Christmas period, I was unable to attend because Pete Carroll didn't do a press conference. So hopefully after the Arizona game, hopefully everything's gone well. They've made the playoffs, and I get to attend the day after on New Year's Day and ask some questions. Fingers crossed, eh? But I'd love to be at more presses, but it's just technology, distance, etc., etc. Absolutely, OG3. Final tribute to Russ. Right. What do we let me find a play of this this too high defense to kind of illustrate my point. And we'll make it an explosive run as well, shall we? So that you can really kind of see, and we'll talk through what happens. Now, the other thing that I've been learning really is about overfront defense. And remember, there wasn't too many explosive plays, but so when Pete Carroll says rope-a-dope, you could almost say cat and mouse, because it's like a balancing act of, well, we want to stop the explosive play, we want to stop that big receiver, but also we don't want to get in the crap. Like we don't want to just let the run defense get out of control. So it's like a cat and mouse, like balancing act type of thing. So here you can see a too high presentation at the snap, and it is a too high coverage. I believe I think they're blitzing their nickel. And why does this play happen? Well, for starters, guys, right? So basically, bend don't break, says Ricardo. Yeah, Ricardo, that's a pretty apt way of describing it. And Ricardo, they're very much bending, right? But not breaking, because the low amount of explosive plays they just gave up. Like, it was big chunk runs, but when they needed to clamp up, generally they did in the red zone, albeit, there was the Derick Henry running back pass. There was the third down Trey Brown defensive pass interference call that then extended that drive, and they scored, didn't they? So in the box, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and Seattle has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the basic math on this. Jonathan, we spoke about Sean Desai and the Eagle stuff, really. So this is a good angle to look at it. Sorry about this. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you could call it 9, couldn't you? Given he's getting the ball. Obviously, you can involve your corner, like Griff was talking about. But this is an interesting play to watch through. Let's just watch it through. Because of the kind of cutback that develops with people pursuing, they kind of not all playing quite together, but it's also harder because you're lacking that extra guy. Artie Burns, I think, is blitzed, but they end up with like a soft edge here. And it means Bobby Wagner essentially has to go from here all the way to here, which is a really long way to run. And he's having to run over here with these guys coming to go and get him. If you had an extra guy in the box, that would help. Let's see if I can find an example of this with cover 3 going on. And also, I should say as well, the Titans had some pretty good run designs. So this is base defense on the Seahawks, and the Titans get an 8-yard run out of it because of the soft edge that they find. Now, I'd said how Devin Bush wasn't quite up to speed. Here, he's a tick slow getting over the top, and that kind of creates this alley out wide. So Seattle's stunting here and stunting here like a pirate, and he has to work over the top of that. Alignment-wise, he should probably be stacking his 3-tech here to give him that kind of head start over here. You can see how the tight end ends up picking him off. If he'd started here, he'd have probably been in better shape. So this is a base under front. So they've designated the Y as this extra. They have 6 OL packages. So that's an offensive lineman. So 3-tech weak, backer weak, nose tackle shaded strong, 4-eye player here, which is designed to keep this dude from climbing up here, but also control the B gap that teams like to run towards. So you've got B gap and B gap. And then this guy potentially can win out here. That's like the old 5-tech Red Bryant roll. So they get run to their technically the weak side of their front. And you can see how Devin Bush is just a tick slow. His path, she should recognize this. And he should recognize this. Why is it doing that? And get over the top of the play. But he's just too slow to do that. This is also this type of C-gap issue Griff was talking about, where this type of run is a weakness when you're going to line up like here and here. And really front-wise, like it's a funky formation for Seattle. Like if we go back, but really front-wise, this can be your extra gap player, right? So force, C-gap, really you'd like Wagner almost here and then Bush already kind of lined up in the C-gap. Like if it was a bear front, that's how it would be. But they're not playing it like that, which is why trips with a slot. So it's a nub formation. There's no one out here. It's why it's difficult because it brings the corner into the fit, and it creates an extra gap away from where you're running the football. But yeah, but Bush is just lined up too tight. And ultimately that means that sort of thing happens. So he was a bit rusty, but this is also a good design. Also, just the angles of the stunt, like this ball kind of rolls off the shelf pretty quick because there's no edge here. Like the edge is Bush, and he ends up inside out on it, like dramatically. So that's how you get that happen. Andrew asks, with Jordan Brooks out, Would we be seeing more of the bear front given how the Steelers like to run? Andrew, tell me about the Steelers run game because I haven't dived into them yet. Or are you just talking generally that the Steelers like to run the football? I mean, this is they only have run the bear like the bear looks when it's properly balanced. So, say there was a tight end here and a tight end here. Sometimes you'd see like the bear, but I mean, this is basically their bear version for this year. This just a 3-4 base. But we might see more base, but generally they only get into base when. I mean, this is technically 13 personnel, isn't it? Because tight end, but it's a 6th offensive lineman. That's why they got into base. We only really see base when it's 13 personnel, or they really need to try and stop the run. If it's 12, they'll get into 2-4-5 personnel of the big nickel type, being Devin Bush or Jamal Adams. So yeah, no, probably not bad. Probably just more of this if the Steelers use 13, but. And Pete Carroll also mentioned taking shots, which weren't quite there. I don't think this is an example, but that's something to consider with the run game. Let me try and find a good example of them playing too high and it being a cover 3 and them giving up a run. I've got a spreadsheet here, you see, but well, and of course, the other point is they were playing a fair bit of middle field open. So this is an interesting one. So I'm curious. I mean, what do you think happened here, people? So you can see that they're trying to show this at the snap too high, and then they're rotating down fairly late. Now I don't know if this is, and it's sometimes hard to tell. It's obviously it's a blitz of the nickel, right? And then it's either man, 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 post safety, or it's deep third, post third, weak hot 2, middle hook like to 3, and then seam curl flat player to the 2 here. But either way, for all intents and purposes, it plays out very similar, but they end up without an A gap defender. Now, this is a duo run, so with duo, you're expecting him to press downhill, and if the Mike backer, which in this instance would, was probably him, but he's so wide. But if the Mike comes downhill, then you press downhill. If he's fast downhill, then you look to try and bounce out. If he's slow downhill, then you stay downhill and either bounce or just run it down the neck. But here Seattle ends up without an A-gap player. So, this is that a... No. So they end up without the A-gap player. Now, that shouldn't happen when you're in middle field closed. Possibly Wagner is supposed to stack down and then fit back in here. But I do wonder if he thought that with the nickel blitzing, we're going to slant here and we're going to slant here. I do wonder about that. It's super weird. I have good news, chat. Griffin is back.
What are we talking about?
I don't know what this play is. Like, I don't know why. It's duo, right? But I don't know why. Is it man?
I assume this was an alignment bust.
Yeah, I think it's because they're playing cover 1.
Yeah. What is Bobby doing, though? Like, Bobby doesn't get bumped, so Bobby needs to be in the A gap, right?
Well, I wondered if it's because it's a dumb call where the nickel's blitzing, right? So Bobby's man, Diggs' is man, Jackson's man, he's the post, I've got the back. So Bobby's like they end up without an A gap player because of how Bobby has to play man on this tight end.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Like Leo plays it fine.
And so when Pico was saying about rope-a-dope, this isn't really to do with the too high thing. It's more to do with just the bust. Like, and there did seem to be a few like busts in the defense, and that might also happen with Devin Bush being like in and not Brooks, because Brooks has kind of been very well. I mean, on the field, he's not a vocal communicator. He might be, we don't know, but he points a lot on tape. You can see that kind of thing happening. Another good example of like a mistake that happened. Let me just find it in my spreadsheet. Complete draw. Yeah, but I don't have any other thoughts on the. So again, similar formation, but ace trips bunch here. They shift into this eye pro look, and Seattle ends up playing under, like almost accidentally. Like they just don't reset, and
it's a problem formationally. I think here the D line gets moved though.
Yeah, is Williams purposely playing a 2-eye like that? What is he doing?
You know what? I did see his 2-eye in this game. And look at Bobby. Bobby's trying to play the play action window first.
Yeah, I think they played 2-eye for when this guy was likely to come back along. So they'd also play a 2-eye if this guy was here and could split.
Although that's a 1 anyway.
No, but the way he plays is like
how he gets into the guard, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what the run concept is lead, right? Like classic ISO, basically.
Yep.
Isn't this ISO? So Bobby has to spill 85. Burns has to fall in. He doesn't.
Yeah, Burns is lost here.
Yeah, so then Bush has to play 55 outside or with his inside shoulder, keep his outside half free. He doesn't do that.
This is the issue for me.
Yeah, Leo mucks it up.
Yeah.
It's just
makes
bad.
a tackle. But...
And they're all thinking pass first is the problem.
Yeah, they I mean, when was the last time they saw a lead draw with that presentation?
Right.
Honestly,
and again, it's why I like the Arthur Smith tree, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
I like the how they blend it all together.
Yeah. And again, guys, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the box for 5, 6, 7, and then this being a gap. And then if you want to make that a gap, well, then that's a gap. But yeah, they still got 1 extra because of this. And so what you could do is you could involve this dude, but if you're doing that, then he's unable, like, what I mean by involve him is you could play cover 2 here or cover 2 here, but if you want to, generally you do it to the weak corner or the flex corner away from the tight end, because you're an over front team generally. Well, you might do it to the 3 tech actually, but anyway, my point being, do you want to do that with Hopkins, or do you just want this guy to focus first on Hopkins and then the run? Probably focus first on Hopkins, then the run. So that's why they can't involve him like they might do. What they did do in this game was blitz him a bit to get him a bit more involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sasha, that Mario Edwards in a 5 tech in a 4 front, that would be the 3-4 stuff.
Just bad football, really, on that one.
Yeah, and there was elements of that, which I mean, maybe the emphasis has been more on like not this, but You'd think
Well, I mean,
you'd think against the second best total points rushing team, they would have emphasized the run too.
yeah, that's the balance. That's the difficulty in defending the run and defending play action. They want you doing one or the other. The offense does. In that case, Bobby's trying to get out to his pass key, right? He's trying to get
Yep.
out to the field hash
Yep.
because he knows he can't be late. It's the problem. He knows he has to be reactive.
Yeah.
So pistol, ball on the hash.
Yeah. So this is what I was speaking about, getting the corner involved. So here they're running. You could either blitz the corner and play like cover three. So this guy in the post, this guy like the third capping him, or you can play like a middle field open concept where he's like, well, let's just play it out and see what we get. Hard to tell, but I think there's 6.
Yeah.
But the problem here is, I mean, Henry was so good at cutting back, and they were getting pretty decent wash up front, which obviously is how you get the cutback going.
He still is really good at that.
And this guy tripping over is annoying.
And it's like Mafe there. Like Mafe's been good, but this is where Nwosu still finds a way to make a play.
Yeah.
They clearly want him to gain a gap though on the tackle.
Yeah, because they're bringing the corner, so the edge is here.
Right.
I mean, this is just the weakness of an over front, really.
I mean, anytime you have an interior bubble, you technically have a weakness.
Yep.
That bubble being, an uncovered gap in the interior.
Yep.
And what Clint Hurd does, I mean, that's technically an answer for it.
Yep.
I mean, it's technically a schematic answer. That's the kind of stuff we want to see. I think this one, Reed, it's just a good rep from Tennessee, really. Henry being good, Reed gets rocked a little bit, a little awkward for Mafe. The backer alignments, what are the?
You've been cheating like this for ages.
They're cheating to the field to play the play action concept, which is good. But then they get punished on the run, though.
Well, it's like they just don't care about this. B gap's been open like this for quite a while in games, or like semi-open.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles, it was a huge problem,
right?
At least on paper,
So this is a cool play from Mafe early in the game to kind of illustrate how much he's kind of come on in terms of run defense. And I believe this is Zeus. So I talked about Zeus. So here, and it could not be, but just the way they step off here. So we're playing Zeus 10. So we're clouding to this guy because he's out here. So we're going to play 2 out here, but the 2 is going to be really kind of aggressive to here. And I'm going to kind of just take my eyes and ram them at this guy. It's not like a landmark zone. Really. And then here's quarters. And I talked about 2-4-5 big nickel. Well, here's our nickel, Devin Bush, big nickel. And this is also a 2-eye snap where they have a 2-eye nose tackle, so on the inside shoulder of the guard rather than over the center. So lots of things to look for. This is Mafe understanding where his force is and his help is, but also making a heck of a play.
Yeah, that's a great play. And they only have this kind of edge play out of Mafe because like Draymond Jones might be able to strong arm them like this, but I don't think he works laterally and makes the tackle too. Like that's awesome from Mafe.
Yeah.
They were getting that from Nwosu routinely.
And Jordan Brooks running through helps Mafe out because it gets the combo off him.
Yeah, true. And that's also Brooks's gap too, right?
Yeah.
Mafe initially gets reached, but then I also wondered how much is it Mafe taking his shot, right? Like he's trying to work inside.
I think he has to have the C gap control, right? He knows he's got a corner out here. He knows he's got an alley safety.
True.
I think because his middle field open. Like gap wise, guys, we're gonna have this. We're gonna have this. Do they blitz the nickel? We're gonna have this.
So they are in the nickel. They're in nickel, right?
Yeah, but the big nickel, yeah.
So gapped out wise.
And if you're playing Zeus on this side of the field, then this guy's not really in the fit. So you've got to kind of do something here.
Because there are 8 gaps. So the safety is the extra fitter then. But they're not really. They are on paper.
I don't think his eyes are immediately at it's up to Mafe basically.
Yeah.
Which is the rope-a-dope thing that Pete Carroll's kind of speaking about. Like Mafe makes a great play, but he also knows he's the guy who has a crappy job on this play. He knows he's going to get outside help, but ultimately he doesn't make that tackle, then it's a safety making the tackle at like 5-ish, 7-ish, Derrick Henry-ish yards.
Yeah. It's also good for Michael Jackson too.
Yep. He's so
safety.
physical compared to the type of corners we've seen.
Yeah, honestly, he might be a safety in the future.
Michael Jackson safety campaign. Do you have any plays to look at, Griff?
Should we look at some of the successful play action?
Like good, successful play action defense, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so hold on. Let's just I've just got Mafe taking out for 3 blocks. That sounds fun. Or 2 blocks. Yeah, never mind. Okay, yeah. What have you got a timestamp?
No. Let's see.
I have one here.
Okay.
They were geared up early in this game for the play action. It's clear that's what they'd spent quite a lot of time on. And that's how Tannehill kind of cooks, like throwing those digs and such. So here's an example, like too high at the snap, and then rolling down into cover 3. I believe it's 3. Oh, our placement's annoying, isn't it? Can I do anything about that? There we go. So this is Russian coverage, but it's interesting that they have Diggs drive on this route.
Mm-hmm.
Like they know the patterns they're getting, I think.
Right. Because they have 4 strong.
Yep.
Coming back across the formation. That's too many crossers for that.
It would be very rare for that to be a throwback post.
Right.
And Maffei also does a good job popping out here.
So Julian Love is the final 4 player technically.
Yeah, so do you think that's why Love plays it as he does? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 strong. So Love knows, okay, I don't have a flat threat, so I can find work for the first crosser back.
Yeah, he has to push strong by rule.
Yeah.
So he's the first crosser back is Love. The second crosser back would be Brooks. And then the, third threat would be Bobby.
Yeah. So that's quite an important concept for cover 3. So
Because the first crosser that comes from that side of the formation is technically the final four. The second one is the final three. The third one is the final two.
Yeah. So final just being how the receivers distribute themselves, like finally. So
that guy's Brooks's guy.
Brooks gets this guy. This guy's this guy. Here's the.
That's technically.
But he ends
Bobby.
up going out.
Yeah. It's impressive how well they filtered this, because it's so easy to screw that up. But Brooks does a good job finding the right guy. Bush kind of plays high to low, top down. Bobby relates initially, but then he sees the ball's not going over there. He's only thinking about a screen potentially, right? A throwback screen.
Right.
So that's them really playing their stuff right. And then
Absolutely,
right
yeah.
there.
Yep, that's a very good snap. Now I want to get the this play is absolutely just nuts from Diggs. It's such a shame it was a flag. So again, here's the 2-eye presentation. What's the down and distance? That's not correct. I believe the down and distance is it's 1st and 10. There you go, 1st and 10. They're not afraid to show the 2-high stuff in 1st and 10. He's not rolling down until a bit later. Now this is like a solution where Brooks here's technically is the mic, but he's mugging the open gap. This is something they do against teams where they're anticipating duo, because they just want to get all these numbers front side and then shoot in to keep doubles off and make the running back bounce into where they've got the numbers advantage. Basically, way to kill duo really is blow up the front side while holding this A gap, because duo very rarely, if ever, is going to cut back through the B, even if Seattle's sticking someone there. They run it to press the double team on the 3 tech, climb up to the guard, then bounce out to the edge if they can. But here they're keeping this guy clean in the A gap and also bringing more numbers than they have front side, blowing it up. Now this is not duo, but it's an incredible play from incredible from Diggs, even though he got flagged. Yeah. So this is a fire zone. So they're pressuring Brooks because they wanted to blow up duo, but also nice to be able to pressure. And on the back end is cover 3. So this is a post safety. This is a deep third. This is a deep third. Now, this is our like seam curl flat player relating to the 2. This is our weak 2 player. So really the back is his thing, but then his areas like here. And then this is the final 3, like middle hook player who has to relate to the 3, which is a 6 offensive lineman. So he's very unlikely to release, right? He's not going to go downfield. But you're based on flow, generally likely to be this guy. Could be other guys, but generally likely to be this guy or this guy, because there's a 3 out here and 1 out here, right? And what they get is weak, right? So he just needs to roll over Wagner and find the.
But at the same time, it's a 2-route concept with like Max Pro, right? Or
so it's not really on him.
So it becomes less on Bobby, and they enact the nail down mechanic from the middle safety, right?
Yeah. Now he obviously looks a bit slow, but really this is on Diggs to understand his max protection. We've only got 2 downfield routes, so if I drive here, and you can see, is that Trey Brown communicating that? If I drive here, I know that this corner is free to play this because all these guys are here. So there's no threat to his third. Yeah. So Diggs is able to drive down. The post routes overlapped. And Diggs makes a great play. That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Unfortunate flag. But this is elite safety play other than the penalty.
Yeah. Well, and look at Diggs's angle. Like he bends over the post.
Yeah, optimal. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect defense undone by big refereeing.
Yeah, but they threw the flag, so good for them.
Tannehill does put it behind him too.
Yeah,
If
he was
Tannehill
slightly
throws-
rusty this game. If
Yeah.
Tannehill throws it properly, does Love pick it?
If it's
Uh,
I don't maybe it hits his helmet. He might layer it in there if he could, but the hit is probably legal and they might jar it loose. I don't know.
yeah, so Tannehill gets his receiver hurt, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
This is the problem. That you know, you are reward as much as it's funny hearing Tom Brady say comments about the rewarding quarterbacks, given how often he used to throw receivers into massive hits. And we don't need to get into his receivers, but I do kind of agree with him on the like that this flag is rewarding a shit throw.
Yeah.
And there was helmet contact made because Diggs is short and he's exploding upwards, and the receiver's having to bend down and he gets his head in there. What would be another good play action play? Can I find one? Or
How about
Deeple White? Yeah, go ahead. Boot flood. 1731.
1331?
1731. Let's see.
17. Wait, was that the one I was just looking at? At a shotgun. Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at that one. Yeah, that's good enough. It was a weird play call, honestly, but
Yeah, what were they going? Did they think that this was popping open behind Wagner? Or that Woolen would bite?
Was it supposed to be like boot smash and the guy didn't?
Do you think Burks messed it? Is that Burks? No, it's not, is it? Is he injured?
Like he's supposed to run a corner.
Hey, he runs that route fast, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, like that's not getting thrown. You kidding me?
Running right into the post safety.
But so then what helps defeat the concept here? The corner.
I don't know, actually. Nothing really.
I think Tennessee screws up, honestly, more than anything.
Okay. Never mind. Let me find a good one. Well, this is a good one, I think. 1047. Have we? Oh yeah, this is sexy. This is certified sexy. So I think, right? I think they're playing Zeus here, right? And so cover 2 here, right? But like more like a bracket on this dude, and then 4 back here. And Tennessee kind of knows that that's likely to happen with the formation. And this is also something that the 49ers hit a very similar concept of, right? And Seattle gets a bit bolder, and rather than playing like spot drop back here, they let their backers come up and then they play super tight downhill. Now, why I said Tennessee knows that is because they try and widen, because they know the cloud will widen, so they won't get a disruption on this dude. He has to expand with this guy to the flat, because if it's a wheel, he has to carry it, because this guy can only play this. He can't play 2 routes. It's the second guy through his zone. But Devin Bush here is very impressive to... Well, I don't know if he should be doing that, actually. Like, they're just straight up saying this B gap is just no longer there, right? Bobby's having to 2 gap, I guess, in the fit, or would they just be screwed? Anyway, in the past, what's happened is this dude's been held by the B gap, and they've pinged it like in the vacation of his zone. The 49ers did it. We looked at it. And I said, the B gap bubble was a problem. B gap bubble was a problem. Well, what you could do is you could stick this guy in here, or you could just say, well, good luck to this dude. We'll ask him to 2 gap. Anyway, whatever they're doing, Bush expands out, whether he's correct or not, ends up walling here. They get a great body presence on the play action.
Yeah.
And he'll have to wait the window out. That's really good coverage from Bush.
That's fantastic from Bush.
Yeah.
That's good defense. And then look at Diggs.
Yeah, and Diggs is the quarter. What this enabled him to do, reading the quarterback eyes, is he would murder this
And what's awesome
metaphorically.
about this is clearly incredibly game planned for what the Titans do.
Yep.
So
And learning from the
mistakes.
49ers game.
Right. And it gives you a little bit of hope that at least conceptually they'll be better prepared for when they face a tougher opponent.
Yeah. If. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see a run. Like this guy pulls, which makes it different, but is the idea that you fall back here and then you stack and fall back? Or is Diggs gonna join in late? I don't know.
Yeah, like what is the run fit? I mean they're kind of shafted if it is a handoff.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the next thing to monitor.
You know, they might have had a very specific tell on the formation.
I'm sure. Like, I mean, if they had the tell from the 49ers that this, or Bush is just wrong to do that, but
Yeah, right. I mean,
work.
like maybe, but Bush is so confident. He keys his pass key the whole way. He doesn't even look at anything run related. He must know that if you get fast motion
Yeah.
pre-snap like that, it's going to be a pass or something.
And what was interesting in this game, Griff, was I didn't see too much 3 bars. Like it was more like middle field open to stop it, which they had been running 3 bars to effect, but I wonder what made them get up. Just your variance. Maybe they just it's probably like the run fit they were worried about, like playing that on early downs and making the safety have the fit in the box.
Yeah.
They kind of got in bother against the Eagles with that. Okay, do you want a bad one?
Sure. Yeah.
This is one that the Rams almost hit on Bobby Wagner. And it's basically the same design, but I think the Rams was under center too. I really like Artie Burns' style, like the way he plays nickel.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Also, Griff, if you're using the private chat, I can't see it.
I'm not.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Artie's like pure cover skills show up right in the slot.
Yeah, he just looks fluid.
He is fluid.
Cool player.
That's
it's a tough concept for this front structure.
Yeah, Bobby needs to find yeah, Tannehill like paces that out just long enough though.
Yeah.
But what is Bobby? I mean, the nothing about the O-line suggests run though. Like what is Bobby keying then?
Guard.
Right? Like the guard is not, that's a pass set. Or the center.
No, but
Like
the guard pull.
that's not a the center though, like that's not a down block. That's a pass set.
Yeah, as
Even
soon as but he knows he's scared. He's scared of being slow to the run. That's kind of the problem with him.
you know, I'm surprised we don't see more play action wise shallow because it's almost as effective as drift or strike.
Right.
And it's really the same thing conceptually.
Right.
I don't know why we don't see it more often. It works every time. I've never not seen it work. Works for the Seahawks.
If Diggs didn't slip here, this would have been a crazy kind of interesting play.
Yeah. And I think Diggs is thinking, what is he thinking? Dagger? The
Yeah,
outside receiver.
yeah. Well, because if Wagner does his job, that's his threat.
Basically, using your free safety as cleanup for the under center play action game, quick pocket setup is kind of funny, but
I mean, it is cool how this release looks like a power path, you know?
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. That's still like, it's just that. You got bubble. It's
But I really need to go over front, like how to fit the run in over front stuff again. Because alignment wise, they do some stuff where I'm like, huh, why are they doing that? And this isn't an alignment play, but
when they have the pressures and everything, it does change things.
yeah. Bannon asking whose fault is that? I mean, it's technically Wagner because he's the weak hook player in cover 3. But it hits so quick. It's just good play design. But like Griff says, the keys were very much pass, even with the guard pull. I mean, a guard doesn't look this timid if
Yeah.
Anything else, Griff?
I don't think so. I think we covered the basics of this game defensively.
Yeah, so they're doing some cool new stuff. I think they've learned a bit. I do worry just about. I think the worries right now are more kind of. It's like the limits of the personnel now. But they're definitely like kind of adapting and shifting and within their current direction and structure. But they've done some cool things the last 2 weeks. The 49ers is a really bad matchup, but they're a bad matchup for everyone not named the Baltimore Ravens. So
yeah, well, and the Ravens played them well, but like
they got variance, didn't they? They got a bit lucky.
And that's what the Ravens can beat you in different ways, right? So even if they get thrown on, which the Ravens were getting thrown on, they can still, find a way to flip the field and get that pick, right? But like, what did they have? 9 yards per attempt with 4 interceptions. That's what happens. But like a lot of the 49ers structure still worked. So that they're terrifying. The only way to beat the 49ers in a sustainable way is if their players don't play. So if their best players don't play.
Yeah.
And injury is a terrible part of the game, but like they're going to be this good unless their roster regresses.
Yeah. So, I mean, how old is Trent Williams?
He's 35.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ayuk will stay in San Francisco.
He shouldn't.
I hope he doesn't. And then I hope they cap cut George Kittle too for no reason. Yeah. And then it'll just be Debo and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. Purdy's an annoying.
Yeah.
That contract. All right, chat. We'll be back tomorrow with a look at the offense. Probably have less talk about Russell Wilson. More talk about the Seahawks offense and some good plays to look at. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Wow, this has been a long stream. Please do like the video, comment down below a video breakdown you'd like to see from me this week. There's a number of kind of interesting defensive standouts, but nothing jumping off. Could talk about Geno Smith again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be the thing to do. We'll have to see. And then on Friday, we'll have a Pittsburgh Steelers preview with a special guest, hopefully.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.